Hey everyone, Daniel Rubino here, and this is your Microsoft and Windows News Roundup. Let's get to it. All right, first up, the Xbox Elite Controller Series 2. We've been expecting this thing for, well, a long time now, but it was finally announced this week at E3. It's a new controller that's coming out later this fall, around November. It goes for $180, which is about $30 more than the last version. This version brings all sorts of new things, including, most importantly, the rubber grips won't fall off. At least that's what we're hearing is being promised. There was a big issue with the original Elite controller as it heated up in your hands. A lot of people had those grips come off. But besides fixing the obvious, it does other things like bring Bluetooth. So yeah, you can actually now use it with your PC. That was one of my biggest complaints about my two Elite controllers, which, while a lot of fun to use and really premium feeling, just didn't work with my PC, which is unfortunate, but now that is fixed with this new version. And besides the paddles on the back, you can now configure the thumbsticks as well, including adjusting how they work and how they feel. Overall, it looks to be a nice update. We can't wait to get our hands on. Let me know though if you're going to be getting the new Elite Controller Series 2. Microsoft and Project XCloud was also talked about at E3 2019. In fact, that's going to be a theme here. We're going to talk a little bit about E3. So XCloud, if you don't know, is the answer that Microsoft has to Google Stadia. It's going to allow you to stream games, but this is more important than Stadia in my opinion because, well, it's an extension of your console. Although you don't need to have an Xbox console if you don't want to. You can just do XCloud, buy games through the store, and then stream them to your other devices, and that's going to offer a lot of flexibility. Plus, you don't need to actually own the games, but if you do, you can download them locally to your console. It's basically the best of both worlds. Now, we haven't gotten news on pricing and exact availability, but testing should happen in October, or at least start to roll out. This will be a long-term project though, but for those of you interested in XCloud, well, we have all the information at Windows Central. We'll link them below. Or speaking of XCloud, you'll be able to also use your console as its own personal server. That is, you can use your existing Xbox as a way to stream games to your other devices, not even on the same Wi-Fi network. So if you're across the world, you can use your existing Xbox to stream a game to yourself. It's going to be super cool and something that Sony has struggled a little bit with, although they do offer a similar option on the PlayStation 4. This one looks to be a little bit more open. We can't wait to see it. That too should be launching in October, at least for early access. Next up is Project Scarlett. We've been hearing about this for a while as well. This is the next-gen Xbox, and was it shown off? No, of course not. As we've been talking about on our Windows Central podcast, every Fridays, by the way, you should join us. What we expected was Microsoft would get on stage, talk a little bit about the hardware, a little bit about the performance in terms of what it looks like, in terms of pricing. Well, we weren't expecting that, and that's okay because we expect to hear that next year at E3 2020 because it will launch in the fall of 2020, and that's when we'll be able to see it. As far as what to expect though, well, Microsoft is saying 4 times the performance of the Xbox One X. It is all AMD based, including the new processor and chipset that's being used, but more importantly, they're going to use an SSD for once instead of a spinning hard disk drive. In other words, performance should be much better. This isn't just some ordinary SSD. Apparently, Microsoft invented a new version of an SSD for this console specifically. It can also be used as RAM besides storage as well. Performance though should be very good and it should be a powerful device. Now questions remain about price point, and in fact we have heard there are actually 2 versions of this console coming out. One's gonna be a higher price, one's gonna be a lower price. We're not 100% sure if that's still the case. If you want more information about it, well, go check out Jez Corden, our senior games editor, who has all the info for you. Next up is Apple iCloud. Why are we talking about that here? Because it's now available in the Microsoft Store. Apple seems to like to do this, just suddenly bringing stuff to the store, including iTunes last year. But yeah, if you now have an iPhone or a Mac device and you happen to sync stuff to Apple's cloud, you can now do it on Windows. What's really neat here is they didn't just port the app over. Instead, it uses the same file system as your OneDrive system does. That is, it shows the files on your device, but they're not necessarily downloaded, so you can go get them later. Seems to be a pretty cool system. I'm not a huge fan of iCloud, but if you are using an iPhone, at least you now get the option on Windows 10 to use it as well. And hey, more apps in the store, the merrier. A few years ago, Razer joked around about making an energy drink, and they finally did it. Well, it's not an energy drink. They're very adamant in not calling it that. Instead, it's a mental enhancement drink for gamers. It is called Respawn, and it is now available. They sent me over a few packs to try out, and I actually reviewed it, which was a lot of fun. Now, I actually have a lot of opinions on this stuff. I'm a huge nootropics fan. If you don't know what nootropics are, go check out Reddit. It's a well-known term used for mental enhancement. This is actually a pretty good drink, though. It doesn't have a lot of caffeine in it. It's only 95 milligrams or about a cup of coffee. That's why it's not an energy drink, but also has choline bitrate in it, which is good for mental enhancement and acuity as well as reflexes. And I've been actually using it for in the morning as well as before going to the gym. I actually kind of like it a lot. They could probably do this a lot cheaper than the $25 per box that Razer is offering. But still, if you're looking for convenience in little packets that you can travel around with you, as well as some pretty tasty flavors and no sugar, well, go check it out. But let me know in comments below if you think it's a gimmick or something you would want to use. Next up are browsers. Are we going to talk about Edgeium? Actually, no. We're going to talk about Opera GX. Apparently, it's a new browser that's coming out. It's actually in preview right now. It's a browser built for gamers. Sounds a little strange, but actually has some neat features in it, including optimizing itself based around your gameplay. So it limits its CPU and memory usage, as well as give you notifications for live streams on Twitch and other services like Discord. Overall, it seems like a neat idea. I'm not 100% sold on it yet, but the design of it looks pretty clever, and there's a lot of people out there who actually really enjoy Opera as an alternative to Chromium, Firefox, or the Chrome browser, or even Edge themselves. So go ahead and check it out. Let me know what you think. Next up, UWP Apps. If you're a fan of Microsoft's Universal Windows Platform, well, a bunch of developers got together and been working in secret for the last few months to release a bunch of nice apps. They called it Launch Date 2019. They plan on doing it again next year. These apps are actually pretty nice, folks. First up is Spotimo. If you're a fan of Spotify, well, this is a third-party app that uses the Spotify service. It is a native UWP app, though. It uses a lot of Fluent design. XAML on there as well, and it looks really beautiful. Now, if you don't like the performance of Xpotify, the PWA app that's available, you can go ahead and try this. It's also free, and overall the performance is very good. The other new app that is updated is MyTube 4.0, which is now in beta. I'm a huge fan of MyTube, been using it for years myself. This new version has a new player in it, as well as new controls and new Fluent design elements. And overall, it looks really nice. It even gives you a clever preview over the video as you hover over it. If you haven't tried MyTube 4.0 yet, I highly recommend it. It is also free. And one of my other favorite apps that was announced is Leger, or I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. It's a Reddit app, though. And there are actually a few Reddit UWP apps already on the store, including Red Planet, which are pretty nice, but this one in particular I really like. The UI is really modern, has a very clean title bar on there. In fact, you can't see the title bar. And again, it uses all the latest elements of Fluent design and UWP on there. Next up is Project Centaurus. If you don't know, this is Microsoft's rumored dual screen Surface device. It's a larger format, around 12 to 13 inches, although we don't have all the specifics yet. Our own senior Windows editor, Zach Bowden, first reported it in December 2018, and now The Verge is reporting it was recently showed off to Microsoft employees in one of those Sizzler videos. If you've ever seen those Sizzler videos that Microsoft makes for its Surface devices, well, that's what this evidently was, and it showed off this device, and it's kind of weird for a few reasons. Usually the Surface team doesn't allow anyone else outside the Surface group to see what they're working on. Evidently, though, they teased it for some of the people working at Microsoft. My presumption is that people working on Windows 10, specifically Windows Lite and Windows Core OS, finally got to see what the software they've been working on will look like when it's on hardware. Now, as far as when we can expect to see this device, rumor has it this fall. In fact, I'm hearing for October 2019, we will be seeing quite a few Surface devices. I've heard up to 5 things may be coming out. You can imagine that maybe Surface Book 3, Surface Laptop 3, a new Surface Pro, Project Centaurus, and maybe either the headphones, or we're also possibly hearing a Windows on ARM device from Microsoft. All that is tantalizing, but of course it can always change at any minute, so just take that with a grain of salt, but this could be a pretty big October. As far as Centaurus, though, I'm very excited about a dual screen device. This presumably will be different from the ThinkPad X1, which had a single foldable display. Instead, this will be 2 separate displays with a nice little hinge in between. It'll be based around pen and inking, and it should be kind of interesting, but let me know what you think. Should Microsoft even release this device, or will it be something that you would be interested in buying? All right, so that does it for this episode. Now, if you have any questions or comments, leave them below. We'll have all the links to all the articles and stories we talked about here in the description as well, so you can follow up on that. Otherwise, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Take care, everyone.